The rain hammered the tin roof of the old Ford pickup like 1,000 accusations, each drop echoing the thud of Rhett's heart as he stared at the screen glowing in his lap. I love you too, man. Can't wait to see you again. The text read, simple words from a night that had changed everything, a secret now spilling out into the damp Pacific Northwest air. Harlan's voice boomed from the kitchen door before Rhett could even delete it. Boy, you gonna sit there all night nursing that phone like it's your damn girlfriend? Rhett's fingers froze, the phone slipping from his grip onto the cracked vinyl seat. At 22, he had spent years weaving his life around the quiet rhythms of Astoria, Oregon, a coastal town where the Columbia River met the sea in a perpetual gray haze, where fog clung to the pines like unspoken regrets, and where his father's expectations loomed larger than the cannery smokestacks on the hill. Harlan Whitaker was a man carved from the same salt-stiffened wood as the fishing boats he repaired, broad-shouldered, calloused hands that could mend a hull or crush a beer can without a second thought, eyes like weathered slate that saw weakness as a crack in the foundation. He had raised Rhett alone after Evelyn left for Seattle a decade ago, chasing a nursing degree and a life less anchored to the tide. Men don't run from their roots, Harlan would say, pounding a fist on the scarred oak table during dinners of canned tuna and instant mashed potatoes. Rhett had nodded then, always nodding, because defiance in Astoria felt like swimming against the current, exhausting, futile, and likely to drown you. But that night, with the wipers slapping rhythmically against the relentless downpour, Rhett felt the current shift. He had met Connor at a dive bar in Portland during a rare weekend escape, a stolen 48 hours of anonymity amid the city's neon pulse. Connor was everything Astoria wasn't, lean and laughing, with tattoos snaking up his arms like invitations, his touch electric against Rhett's skin in a motel room that smelled of cheap laundry detergent and possibility. For the first time, Rhett had whispered his truth aloud. I'm gay, and it feels like coming home. And Connor had pulled him closer, murmuring, then let's make it feel like that forever. The text was a promise, a tether to a world where love didn't come with conditions. Rhett snatched the phone back, shoving it into his jeans pocket as Harlan's boots thudded closer. The truck door yanked open, letting in a gust of chill wind laced with the briny tang of the river. What's eating you, son? You look like you've seen a ghost. Harlan's face, lined from years under the Oregon drizzle, creased in concern that bordered on suspicion. He was still in his oil-stained overalls from the boatyard, the kind that hung heavy with the day's labor, a reminder that real men earned their keep with sweat, not secrets. Nothing, Dad. Just tired from the drive. Rhett forced a smile, but it cracked at the edges, like the parched earth after a false summer. He climbed out, boots sinking into the mud of their driveway. The Whitaker homestead, a squat rancher on the outskirts of town, surrounded by salal bushes and the distant cry of gulls. Inside, the house smelled of diesel and damp wool. The living room a shrine to Harlan's version of manhood. Mounted salmon on the walls, a shelf of dog-eared Tom Clancy novels, and a faded photo of Red at 12, gap-toothed and beaming beside his father at the helm of a charter boat. They ate in silence that night, forks scraping against chipped plates, the only sound the patter of rain on the window panes. Rhett's mind replayed the Portland hours in fragments, Connor's breath hot against his neck, the way their bodies fit like puzzle pieces long separated. It had been reckless, exhilarating, a rebellion against the isolation that had defined him since high school, when whispers followed him through the halls of Astoria High after a fumbling kiss behind the bleachers with a visiting wrestler from Seaside. He had buried it then, dating girls like Sarah Klein out of obligation, their make-out sessions in the cab of his Chevy ending in polite goodbyes and Rhett's stomach churning with guilt. You're a Whitaker, Harlan had told him once, after overhearing the rumors. We don't bend to what folks say. We stand tall. Rhett had stood tall, all right, tall enough to hide the parts of himself that didn't fit the mold. The phone buzzed again in his pocket, a vibration like a heartbeat against his thigh. He ignored it, but Harlan's eyes flicked up, sharp as a filleting knife. That thing's gonna rot your brain. Put it away and pass the salt. Rhett complied, the moment passing like so many others, but sleep evaded him that night. He lay in his boyhood bed, posters of MLB stars peeling from the walls, staring at the ceiling beams etched with his initials from a childhood whittling project. What if Connor's text was the beginning of something real? What if Astoria's fog couldn't swallow this one truth? Dawn broke gray and sodden, the kind of Oregon morning that seeped into your bones. Rhett dragged himself to the boatyard, where the air hummed with the whine of grinders and the shouts of men cursing the weather. He worked as a deckhand, hauling lines and scrubbing hulls, his slim frame, 5'10", wiry from years of lifting crab pots, aching under the strain. Harlan barked orders from the dry dock, his voice carrying over the river's murmur. "Tighten that bowline, Rhett. Ain't no room for slack in this life." Rhett nodded, muscles burning, but his thoughts drifted to Connor's laugh, the way it cut through the bar's din like sunlight. By midday, the phone buzzed insistently during a smoke break behind the tool shed. "Miss you already. When can I steal you away again?" Rhett's thumbs hovered, heart racing, before typing back, "Soon. Promise." He hit send, a small victory, but as he pocketed the device, a shadow fell across the gravel. Harlan stood there, arms crossed, face thunderous. In his hand dangled Rhett's phone, screen still lit with the incriminating glow. "Care to explain this, boy?" Harlan's voice was low, dangerous, the rain starting up again as if on cue. Rhett's world tilted, the river's roar fading to a dull pulse in his ears. He reached for the phone, but Harlan held it aloft, eyes narrowing on the words. The silence stretched, broken only by the drip of water from the eaves. Then, Harlan's face hardened, the concern twisting into something colder, more final. "Portland. A man. Jesus Christ. Rhett, what the hell have you done?" Rhett's mouth went dry, words tangling in his throat like snarled nets. "Dad, it's not. Not what? Not what I think." Harlan thrust the phone back at him, stepping closer, his bulk filling the narrow space between sheds. The scent of tobacco and engine grease clung to him, familiar and suffocating. "I raised you better than this. Whoremongerin' with some city faggot. This ain't us, son. This ain't Whitaker blood." The word landed like a gut punch, raw and unfiltered, the slur Harlan must have picked up from the rougher corners of the boatyard, where talk turned ugly after too many shifts. Rhett recoiled, heat flooding his cheeks. "You don't understand. It's who I am. I can't change it." Harlan's laugh was bitter, devoid of humor. "Can't change? Bullshit. Men like us don't change, we fix what's broke. And this." He jabbed a finger at Rhett's chest, hard enough to bruise. "This is broke. Tomorrow, you're in Rollin, in that program up in Portland. The one Pastor Ellis talks about. Conversion therapy, they call it. Straightens you out, makes you right with God and yourself." Rhett's vision blurred, the rain mingling with the sting in his eyes. Conversion therapy, the whispered horror stories from online forums, men emerging hollow-eyed and haunted, souls chipped away like barnacles from a hull. "No, Dad. I'm not going. This is me." Harlan's grip clamped on his shoulder, iron vice. "You will, or you can pack your shit and leave this house. No son of mine lives under my roof living like that." The ultimatum hung heavy, the river's tide pulling at Rhett's resolve. He nodded, numb, because walking away meant unraveling everything. The job, the fragile threads of family, the only home he knew in a town that already eyed him sideways. That night, Harlan drove him to the crumbling Victorian that housed the center, its windows glowing like judgmental eyes against the dusk. Inside, a counselor named Dr. Leland greeted them with a handshake too firm, his smile all teeth and no warmth. "Welcome, Rhett. We're here to help you reclaim your true self." Harlan beamed, pride swelling in his chest for the first time that day, while Rhett signed the forms with a hand that trembled, the pen scratching like claws on his skin. Sessions began the next week, group prayers in a circle of folding chairs, men murmuring sins under fluorescent buzz, electric aversion shocks that left Rhett's nerves singing with phantom pain. "Focus on the light, son," Dr. Leland would say, his voice oily as he adjusted the electrodes. "The devil's in the temptation, cast him out." Rhett endured, teeth gritted, because Harlan's watchful eyes followed him home each evening, probing for progress over plates of overcooked meatloaf. "Feeling better yet?" his father would ask, and Rhett would lie, "Yeah, Dad. Getting there." But the lies festered, a poison seeping into his dreams. Connor's texts went unanswered, fading to silence, each unanswered ping a fresh wound. Astoria's fog thickened, mirroring the haze in Rhett's mind, days blurring into a rhythm of labor and repentance. At the boatyard, Harlan pushed him harder. Extra shifts, heavier loads, as if physical strain could sweat out the deviance. Rhett's body thinned, ribs sharp under his skin, exhaustion a constant companion. One evening, after a particularly brutal session where Dr. Leland had him recount his fall, with Connor in excruciating detail, Rhett stumbled into the local gym on his way home. The Iron Anchor was a squat brick building wedged between the hardware store and a tattoo parlor, its windows papered with faded flyers for strongman competitions. He had passed it 1,000 times, but tonight, the pull was magnetic, a desperate grasp for something solid amid the shifting sands. Inside, the air hummed with the clang of weights and the low thrum of indie rock from overhead speakers. Sweat and chalk dust hung thick, a masculine sanctuary that both repelled and drew him. Rhett hovered by the free weights, towel draped over his shoulder, pretending to eye the dumbbells while his gaze darted nervously. That's when he saw him. Jax Harlan. No relation, thank God. A trainer in his late 20s, built like the cliffs along the coast, all solid lines and quiet power. Dark skin glowing under the harsh lights, close-cropped black hair, and eyes the color of driftwood, warm and assessing. Jax was spotting a burly fisherman on bench presses, his voice steady. One more, Mike. You've got this. Push through the burn. Rhett's breath caught. There was no judgment in Jax's posture, no Harlan-esque scowl, just encouragement, raw and real. Before he could bolt, Jax turned, wiping his brow with a forearm that rippled under the tank top clinging to his torso. New here? Need a hand getting started? Rhett swallowed, the words sticking. Yeah, just looking to build some strength. Nothing fancy. Jax's smile was easy, disarming. Strength's never fancy, man. It's what gets you through the storms. Name's Jax. Let's start with basics, squats. Show me your form. They moved to the rack, Jax demonstrating with fluid grace, his presence a balm against the day's cruelties. Rhett mimicked, legs quaking under the bar, but Jax's hand on his back, firm, guiding, steadied him. Breathe into it. Feel the power in your core. For the first time in weeks, Rhett felt seen, not as a project to fix, but as a body capable of more. As the weeks blurred into a punishing routine, Rhett found himself drawn back to the iron anchor like a moth to the dim glow of its sodium lamps. Morning started at the boatyard, hauling nets heavy with silver-belly salmon, the river's chill seeping through his gloves until his fingers numbed. Harlan's approval came in grunts over coffee black as tar. Keep at it, son. That therapy's working, you look less distracted. Rhett nodded, the lie a bitter pill, but the gym became his rebellion, a stolen hour before dusk where the world's weight lifted, if only for a set of deadlifts. Jax was there most evenings, his shifts aligning with the tide of after-work crowds, loggers from the hills, cannery workers shaking off the shift's monotony. He wasn't from Astoria originally. Rhett learned that over their first real conversation, spotting each other on pull-ups while the rain lashed the parking lot outside. Grew up in Oakland, Jax said, chalking his hands, his Oakland drawl softening the edges of his words. Too much noise, not enough space. Came up here for the quiet, stayed for the views. His laugh was low, rumbling like thunder over the bay, and Rhett found himself mirroring it, the sound foreign in his throat. They talked in fragments between reps, Jax's love for old soul records spinning on a vintage turntable in his apartment, Rhett's boyhood dreams of captaining his own charter boat before the river's pull turned practical. You got the build for it, Jax said one night, adjusting Rhett's grip on the barbell. Lean, but wire tough. Add some mass, and you'll be hauling those pots like nothing. His touch lingered a beat too long, calluses brushing Rhett's wrist, sending a spark up his arm that had nothing to do with static from the mats. Rhett pulled away, heat rising, but Jax didn't press, just nodded, understanding flickering in those driftwood eyes. It was a kindness Rhett hadn't known he craved, this space without sermons or shocks. At the center, Dr. Leland droned on about reparative prayer, forcing Rhett to visualize straight fantasies that left him nauseous, his body rebelling in sweats and shakes. Harlan drove him there twice weekly, the truck's cab thick with unspoken tension. Proud of you, boy, his father said once, clapping his knee. Fighting the good fight. Your ma'd be too, if she wasn't off playing house in the city. Evelyn's calls came sporadically, her voice tinny over the line from her Seattle walk-up. How's my boy holding up? She'd ask, and Rhett would murmur, fine, Mom. Working hard. He couldn't tell her. Not yet. The therapy, the gym, the way Jax's presence chipped at the walls he'd built. She had left when he was 12, packing her scrubs and regrets after one too many of Harlan's rages, the kind fueled by cheap whiskey and the slow bleed of cannery layoffs. I love you both, she'd whispered at the door, kissing Rhett's forehead, but I gotta breathe. Harlan had never forgiven her, calling her weak, but Rhett missed the softness she brought, the way she'd hum show tunes while folding laundry. The gym's rhythm steadied him. Jax introduced progressions, compound lifts, protein shakes gulped from dented shakers in the locker room, where steam from the showers carried the faint scent of eucalyptus soap. Rhett's body responded, shoulders broadening under the strain, biceps curving where flat planes had been. Mirror glances shocked him, color returning to his cheeks, posture straightening like a sapling after storm. "You're transforming, man," Jax said, grinning as they cooled down on the bikes, legs pumping in sync. "Not just the muscle, the way you carry it. Like your own in the space." Rhett's laugh was tentative. "Feels good. Like I'm me, you know?" The admission hung, vulnerable, but Jax met it with a nod. "That's the point. Gym ain't about fixin'. It's about uncovering." Their conversations deepened, spilling into post-workout walks along the pier, where the Lewis and Clark rivers slapped against pilings, freighters ghosting in the mist. Jax shared stories of his own coming out, 17, in a Oakland park, his mom's embrace fierce despite the tears. She said, "Baby, God's got room for all colors in his rainbow." Rhett envied that grace, his own truth buried under Harlan's boot. He confessed fragments: the Portland night, the therapy's grip. Jax listened without pity, just a quiet, "That sounds like hell, brother. But you're here, lifting heavier every day." That's fighting back. One foggy Tuesday, after a grueling leg day that left Rhett's quads screaming, Jax invited him for coffee at the Anchor's attached cafe, a hole in the wall with Formica counters and pie under glass domes. They slid into a booth, mugs steaming with black brew cut by hazelnut creamer, Oregon's guilty pleasure. Jax's knee brushed Rhett's under the table, accidental at first, then lingering. The contact hummed, electric, stirring the embers Rhett had banked since Connor. "You ever think about leaving this town?" Jax asked, stirring his cup, eyes on the spoon rather than Rhett. "All the time," Rhett admitted, voice low. "But Dad, he's all I got. And the river, it's in my blood." He traced the grain of the table, scarred from years of elbows and arguments. Jax reached across, covering his hand briefly. "Blood don't own you, Rhett. You choose your current." The touch ignited something, a warmth spreading that had nothing to do with the coffee. Rhett pulled back, pulse thundering, but the seed was planted. That night, in the therapy circle, as Dr. Leland led a chant of "I am redeemed," Rhett's mind wandered to Jax's smile, the way his tank top stretched across his chest during cleans. Guilt twisted like a knife, but so did desire, raw, unapologetic. Harlan noticed the changes, of course. "You're bulking up nice," he said over dinner, forking into pot roast that Rhett had learned to sear from a gym app. "Therapy and hard work, that's the ticket." Rhett mumbled agreement, but inside, the dissonance grew. He skipped a session, claiming overtime, and used the time for an extra gym hour, Jax waiting with a spotting belt and a playlist of Nina Simone crooning about feeling good. Their bond solidified in small ways. Jax texting form check videos, Rhett repaying with fresh-baked sourdough from the market, loaves knobby and fragrant. Astoria's life pulsed around them, the annual regatta festival gearing up, streets strung with lanterns, the air alive with clam chowder scents and fiddle music. Rhett invited Jax, tentative, "Come if you're free. It's something." Jax agreed, eyes sparkling. "Wouldn't miss seeing you in your element." The festival night arrived crisp, the river reflecting fireworks in shattered gold. Harlan manned a beer tent, his laugh booming as he poured pints for old salts, oblivious to Rhett slipping away with Jax amid the crowd. They wandered the midway, cotton candy sticking to fingers, the wheels' lights painting their faces in reds and blues. At the Ferris cab, gondola swaying gentle, Jax turned to him. "This town's got you tight, huh? But tonight, you look free." Rhett's breath hitched, the cabin creaking as it climbed. Below, Astoria sprawled like a memory, beautiful and binding. Jax's hand found his, deliberate now, thumb stroking knuckles. "Rhett, I see you. All of you." The kiss came soft, tentative, lips brushing in the dim sway, tasting of salt air and sugar. Rhett melted into it, hands fisting Jax's jacket, the world narrowing to this stolen orbit. They broke apart at the top, breathless, foreheads touching. "I've wanted that since day one," Jax whispered. Rhett's heart soared, terror and joy entwining. "Me too. But, my dad, the center, it's complicated." Jax cupped his jaw, steady. "Complicated don't mean impossible. We take it slow, yeah? One rep at a time." Descent brought reality crashing. Harlan's tent in sight, his figure silhouetted against the bonfire. Rhett disentangled, panic flickering, but Jax squeezed his hand once more. "You're worth it, Rhett. Remember that." Back home, the high lingered until Harlan's voice cut through the screen door. "Where you been, son? Smelling like fireworks and trouble." Rhett froze in the kitchen, pulse still racing. Just the festival, Dad. Met some folks from the gym. Harlan's eyes narrowed, fear on his breath. Gym folks, huh? Long as they ain't leading you astray. The warning hung, but Rhett held his ground, murmuring good night before fleeing to his room. There, phone in hand, he texted Jax, "Tonight was everything." The reply buzzed instant. More to come. Sleep strong. But sleep evaded, replaced by visions of Jax's mouth, Harlan's scowl. The therapy loomed Monday, a guillotine blade. Rhett stared at the ceiling, muscles aching sweetly from the day's lifts, wondering how long he could straddle this fault line before it split him open. The fault line widened with the equinox, a story as rains turning torrential, streets flooding into rivulets that mirrored the chaos in Rhett's chest. Days at the boatyard stretched endless, Harlan's demands sharpening like a whetstone on steel. Pull your weight, son. Ain't no room for daydreams. Rhett hauled harder, his newly forged muscles straining against the ropes, earning nods from the crew but no quarter from his father. The iron anchor became sanctuary, Jax's texts a lifeline pinging through the gray. Missed that smile. Hit legs tonight. Rhett arrived early, towel slung over shoulder, heart lifting at Jax's wave from the cable machines. Their routine deepened, kisses stolen in the locker room's steam, hands exploring under the spray until the world outside faded. Jax's apartment, a loft above a bait shop on Commercial Street, became their haven. Exposed brick walls hung with Polaroids of coastal hikes, a kitchenette where they burned pancakes laughing, bodies tangling on a futon that sagged under their weight. "You're beautiful," Jax murmured once, tracing the swell of Rhett's pecs, earned from months of presses and plates. Rhett arched into it, whispering, "So are you." The words of vow against the therapy's echoes. Dr. Leland sensed the shift, his sessions probing like hooks in flesh. "Any temptations resurging, Rhett? Remember, the flesh is weak, pray through it." Rhett lied smoother now, eyes downcast, but the aversion shocks bit deeper, leaving bruises that bloomed purple under his shirt. Harlan drove him home those nights, humming hymns off-key, oblivious. "You're glowing, boy. Program's a miracle." Rhett swallowed bile, the duplicity is stone in his gut. Evelyn visited unannounced one crisp October weekend, her Subaru crunching gravel into the drive, arms laden with Tupperware of lasagna from her Seattle co-op. Harlan stiffened at the door, jaw set, but she breezed past, enveloping Rhett in a hug that smelled of lavender and hospital antiseptic. "Look at you, filled out, handsome as ever." Over tea in the living room, she eyed him keen. "Something different, kiddo? Good different. Spill." Rhett deflected, cheeks warming, but her gaze held the persistence of a nurse triaging wounds. Later, washing dishes side by side, he cracked, "Therapy, Mom. Dad's idea. 4. Me being gay." The words tumbled, raw, and Evelyn's sponge stilled, suds dripping. She turned, eyes welling. "Oh, honey, that's barbaric. You tell him it's you, not a problem to solve." "I tried. He won't hear it." Rhett scrubbed harder, plates clinking. "And there's someone. Jax. He's good, Mom. Real." Her smile broke soft. "Then hold on." "But Harlan, he's scared, not cruel. Give him time." She dried her hands, pulling him close. "I'm here always. Call if you need an escape hatch." Harlan tolerated her stay, gruff silences at meals, but the morning she left, he cornered Rhett in the garage. "Your ma fill your head with nonsense? That program's savon you, don't let her poison it." Rhett nodded, throat tight, watching her taillights vanish into the mist. Emboldened, he invited Jax to a hike up Young's River Falls, the trail a muddy vein through fern-choked woods, air sharp with pine and decay. They climbed hand in hand, breaths sinking, pausing at the cascade where water thundered over basalt, mist veiling their faces. Jax pulled him behind a boulder, kiss fierce, hands roaming urgent. "Can't get enough," he growled, nipping Rhett's ear. Rhett gasped, pressing close, the roar drowning their moans. It was reckless, alive, sex against damp rock, bodies slick and straining, release crashing like the falls. After, sprawled on a plaid blanket with thermoses of spiked cider, Jax grew quiet. "This town's small, Rhett. Folks talk. You worried." Rhett traced patterns in the moss. "Every day? Dad finds out, it'll break him. Break us." Jax's arm tightened around him. "Then we build something stronger. Portland's only 2 hours, weekends away, maybe more." The idea bloomed, tentative, but Harlan's shadow loomed larger. At the boatyard Christmas party, a potluck in the warehouse strung with twinkle lights and reeking of mulled wine, Jax showed. invited casual as a coworker. He blended seamless, charming the wives with bar stories, but Harlan's gaze lingered, appraising. "Who's the muscled one?" he asked, red over plastic cups, voice edged. "Trainer from the gym. Helping me bulk." Rhett's pulse hammered, but Jax played it cool, shaking Harlan's hand firm. "Pleasure, sir. Rhett's a natural, gonna be hauling his own boat soon." Harlan grunted approval, clapping Rhett's back. "Damn right. Boys turning into a man." The irony twisted, but Rhett caught Jax's wink across the room, a promise amid the tinsel. New Year's brought escalation. Dr. Leland announced intensive phase, weekend retreats at a church camp outside Seaside, prayers and exorcisms of desire. Harlan signed the waiver eager, packing Rhett's duffel with Bibles and protein bars. "This'll seal it, son. Come back new." The camp was a purgatory of pine cabins and bonfires, men in flannel circles sharing testimonies that rang hollow. Rhett endured ice baths to chill the fire within, chants till his voice cracked, but nights found him slipping out to the tree line. Phone clutched, texting Jax. "Miss you. This is killing me." Replies anchored him. "Hang on. You're tougher than this." Midway through, a storm hit, winds howling off the Pacific, power flickering. In the dark dorm, a bunkmate, Tommy, a Portland trucker with haunted eyes, whispered, "This shit don't work, man. I tried twice. Lost my wife, my faith. Just be you quiet like." Rhett nodded, tears hot, the confession a crack in the facade. He returned Sunday hollow, Harlan waiting with pride. "How was it?" Rhett forced a smile. "Life-changing, Dad." But the drive home, staring at rain-smeared windshield, resolve hardened. That night, Jax met him at the pier, arms open. They walked silent at first, then Rhett unloaded. The camp, the lies, the ache. Jax held him as sobs came, rain mingling with tears. "I'm done hiding, but I need you with me." Jax kissed his temple. "Always. Let's plan your out." January thawed into tentative spring, daffodils pushing through riverbank mud, Astoria stirring with shad runs. Rhett's body peaked, bench at 225, deadlift grazing 315, mirrors reflecting a man emerging, scars faint under tan lines. Jax celebrated with a tattoo. A compass rose on Rhett's forearm, needle buzzing in the parlor's dim, Jax's hand steady on his. "Points true north," Jax said, inking the final flourish. Harlan noticed the ink, brow furrowing over breakfast. "What's that mean, boy? Some gym ritual?" Rhett shrugged casual. "Reminds me to stay on course." Harlan harumphed, but suspicion seeded. The bloom came violently. Late April, post-shift at the yard, Rhett showered quick in the locker bay, towel low, when his phone chimed on the bench, Jax's face lighting the screen, a selfie from their last hike, shirtless and grinning. Footsteps echoed. Harlan, fetching tools, paused. The gasp was audible. Rhett lunged, but too late. Harlan snatched it, thumbs swiping, photos unfolding. Jax and Rhett at the falls, arms entwined. A kiss in the gym mirror, texts laced with hearts. The warehouse fell silent, crew's chatter fading as Harlan's roar built. "You lying sack. All this time, the therapy, the muscle, wasted on this filth." He hurled the phone, screen cracking against concrete. Rhett scrambled for it, shards biting palm. "Dad, please." Crew gathered, murmurs rippling. Harlan's face purpled, veins bulging. "Get out. Out of my sight, out of my house. You're no son of mine." The words eviscerated, sharper than any slur. Rhett backed away, blood dripping from his hand, eyes on Jax's unanswered call. Harlan turned, storming to his truck, engine roaring to life, leaving Rhett amid stares, pity, disgust, the town's judgment crystallizing. He drove to Jax's, knuckles white on wheel, arriving as dusk bruised the sky. Jax opened the door, concern etching his face. "What happened?" Rhett collapsed into him, story spilling in gasps. Jax held tight, rocking gentle. "You're safe now. We got this." But safety felt fragile, Astoria's whispers already stirring. Harlan's truck idled outside the boatyard next dawn, but Rhett didn't show. Jax called in sick for him, bundling him into bed with tea and quiet. Days blurred, job hunt emails unanswered, Harlan's silence a void. Evelyn arrived, tires squealing, scooping Rhett into her arms. "I'm getting you out of here, baby. My place, couch is yours." The drive to Seattle was a funeral procession, Astoria shrinking in the rearview, Jax following in his beater Civic. Harlan's lone text came midway. "Fix yourself. Doors open when you do." Rhett deleted it, gut twisting. Seattle welcomed with urban hum. Evelyn's apartment overlooking the sound. Ferries slicing waves like promises. Jax crashed on the pullout. Their nights a tangle of comfort and heat. Bodies mapping new territories. Rhett enrolled in community college, maritime tech courses, his muscles now tools for creation, not concealment. Therapy shifted, real kind, with a counselor named Mira who nodded at his tears, saying, "Healing's not linear, Rhett. It's a tide." Months turned, summer's gold gilding the Olympics. Jax proposed a road trip, California coast, Big Sur's cliffs. They drove windows down, Springsteen blasting, stopping at diners for pancakes stacked high. In a Monterey motel, salt wind off the Pacific, Jax knelt. "Marry me?" Not legal yet everywhere, but in our world, yeah. Ring simple, silver band etched with coordinates of their first kiss. Rhett yes-ed through tears, pulling him up. Back in Seattle, Evelyn hosted a barbecue on her tiny balcony, ribs smoking, friends from her ward mingling with Jax's Oakland cousin via video. Harlan's absence ached, a phantom limb, but Rhett sent a photo. Him and Jax, arms linked, smiles wide. No reply. Fall brought reconciliation's whisper. A letter arrived. Harlan's scrawl shaky. "Saw your ma. She says you're happy. Maybe I was wrong. Scared mostly. Doors open. Love, Dad." Rhett read it aloud to Jax, voice cracking. They drove down together. Oregon rain welcoming. Astoria unchanged yet altered. Harlan waited on the porch, thinner, eyes hollowed. Embrace awkward, back slapping stiff. "Missed you, boy." Rhett held on. "Missed you too. This is Jax. My partner." Harlan extended hand, hesitant. "Heard about you. Treat him right." Jax shook firm. "Plan to, sir." Over coffee, words stumbled. Apologies, regrets. Harlan admitting his own buried pains. Evelyn's leaving, a youth spent hiding softness. "Thought fixin' you fixed me." Rhett forgave, tentative, the river outside murmuring absolution. Winter solstice, they returned to the Iron Anchor. Jax guest training, Rhett spotting locals. Harlan showed once, lingering by the dumbbells, watching. Proud, he grunted, before leaving. Progress, slow as tide. Rhett's muscles, once a facade, now bore truth, strength in vulnerability, love's unyielding pull. Astoria's fog lifted sometimes, revealing horizons vast. With Jax's hand in his, Rhett stepped forward, no longer fixed, but whole.